Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's continue our end-to-end test journey under Jetpack Compose. As I said before, we're going to proceed with the robot pattern. Basically, the whole philosophy of a robot pattern, it's going to be a base class to facilitate the UI testing with Jetpack Compose. We're going to prepare the robot pattern, and we're going to define the reusable functions of the robot class. Let's call it robot. We're going to inject in the constructor the compose rule of type compose test rule. This particular property compose rule, it's going to allow us to access the UI components and to make the assertion. For example, looking for a button, clicking on a button, assert that the button has this text. Basically, the idea is to access the compose API for UI testing. I'm going to leave it here empty because I'm going to add reusable methods accordingly. Let's create the first child robot, which is product robot. This class product robot is going to inherit from the robot, and we have to pass here the compose test rule of type compose test rule and pass it here in the arguments or in the constructor. We need to access the list of products as we have done previously under Cypress. We need to access each card and to assert that we have the correct data. In order to do so, we need to define some reusable functions under the robot, and we're going to use them regardless of the objective of the UI test. Under the robot class, we're going to implement a reusable function that's going to scroll and assert that has the correct data. Let's call it function scroll and assert is displayed. And we will use the compose rules in order to access the UI elements. We're going to do compose rule, and we can access the node with the given test tag by doing on node with text tag, and we have to provide here the scrollable text tag, a scrollable container tag as a string. From the parameter, I'm going to assign it here, and we have to provide the next parameter, which is use unmerged tree. If true, it will search the unmerged tree semantics. In other words, we're going to consider this composable one single composable or multiple composables. We're going to hoist this one, use unmerged tree boolean to false. After finding this particular composable, we're going to perform scroll to node. And we have to provide here the matcher. The matcher basically, it's like the query. Let's hoist this property. After scrolling to this particular composable, we're going to assert is displayed. Hence the name of our reusable function, scroll and assert is displayed. Let's add another function to assert that a certain composable text exists. Let's call it, for example, assert has text. Let's use the compose rule, and we can easily access the composable by calling on node. We have to provide here the matcher. Basically, as I said before, it's like a query to tell Jetpack Compose where to look for or how to look for this particular node. And we're going to do assert exists. Let's make it reusable by providing the text has text. This is basically the query, and we need to provide some other dependencies. For example, this function takes a parameter substring, for example, or ignore cases. Let's make this assert has text reusable by providing those dependencies. I'm going to assert exists. I'm going to use compose rule. I'm going to access this composable, and we're going to do assert exists. All right. Under on node, which is basically how we're going to look for this composable, by the content description has content description, and we have to provide here the arguments. Instead of text, I'm going to call it content description. Add here use unmerged tree. We can do this otherwise by using an extension function under semantics node. Let's call it the same thing as content description. We can check that this particular composable has the content description by doing this, or just directly do config get or null, semantics property, content description, first or null. We're gonna return true, otherwise false. We need in our end-to-end test to access the string resource. Let's add this function to allow us to get the string resource. Let's name it string resource. We have to provide here the string resource ID. In order to access the context, I'm going to add here a private value equal instrumentation registry and target context. and we can easily get the string resource under our testing environment by doing context and get string in the arguments, the ID. And sometimes our string resource does have arguments. We're going to add another function. Let's call it string resource once again, passing the same parameter and the arguments with the same manner, context, resource, get string, and we can add here the ID as well as the pointer to the form arguments or format arguments. This way, we're going to be able to replace whatever in the arguments under the string resource content. Sometimes we don't want to scroll and assert that a composable is displayed. We only want to scroll to a certain composable. I'm going to call here the function scroll2, and we have to provide here the scrollable container tag as well as the matcher and whether we're going to use a merged tree or not. And it's going to give us the semantics node interaction. It's going to return from compose rule. We need to access the scrollable container by doing onNode with tag and providing in the arguments scrollable container tag a merge tree or not. Perform scroll to node with the matcher. Basically, we need those interactions in our robot that we have done previously under Cypress. We need to assert a certain composable, whether it's displayed or not. Compose rule on node, and we have to provide the node, and we need to make sure that this is displayed. As usual, we have to provide here the matcher as well as whether to use unmerged tree. From the previous application under ViewTree application, we need to insert some text in our text field. Therefore, we're going to define here a reusable function under robot class that's going to allow the developer to insert a certain text into the text field. We're going to use compose rule, and we have to look for the node, basically the text field. We have to provide here the query and whatnot, and we're going to perform text input. So we can infer here the dependencies, the matcher, as well as the text to be inserted, as well as whether to use unmerged tree or not. Sometimes we need to create a custom semantic matcher to match a node that has a specific label. For example, in this case, it's going to be an editable composable. This matcher ensures that the node not only has the exact label, but also supports editing, making it particularly useful for targeting, for example, composables like text field or other editable components. Has editable label, a semantic matcher. We need only here to pass the label. So we're going to use here the semantic matcher, has editable label, and let's add here the label. If the test fails to run this particular assertion, it's going to show something like has editable label and the description of the error. The first thing that we have to do is to check if it's editable by accessing config contains semantic property editable text. Basically, what we are doing here, checking if this particular composable has a semantic property of type editable text. Therefore, we're going to consider this composable editable. Now let's look for the label to match this particular composable by doing semantic nodes, and we're going to get it from the configuration. So let's store this under, let's say for example, has matching label. We're going to do here it and config get or null. So for the semantic property here, it's going to be text. And because it's nullable, we need to check because it can give us an array. Basically, we're going to look for this particular label, and we have to run the function any. All right, I'm going to rename this one in order not to get confused. Semantic node. I'm going to replace this by semantic node. And here it equal label. Otherwise, it should be false. And we have to return is editable or has matching label. Because in our code, we're going to deal with some asynchronous operations, we need to wait until the given condition is satisfied in order to make the assertion. Let's define here a function and call it wait until by doing compose rule. And we have already a function here, wait until timeout, and we have to pass here the condition. So let's add here the dependencies, timeout, and the condition. In some occasions, we want to look for a certain node under the tree, Let's call this function with node. By using compose rule, call the function on node, and that's all. This function on node is going to give us the semantics node interaction. The last function that we have to implement here, we need to find a way to access whether the current theme is set to dark theme or not. Let's call this function assert is dark theme. First of all, we're going to check if the application is under dark theme or not. And because we have the context, we can easily access the resources, and the configuration should be under UI mode night mask. This value should be equal to the configuration UI mode night and yes. I'm going to simplify this one by calling here configuration, and we have to make an assertion, a simple assertion, assert true is dark theme. That's all we have for the robot. Now it's going to be very easy for us to interact with the UI and make the assertions that we want. Let's go back to the product robot. The first assertion that we want to do here is we want to make sure we have the correct list of products. First of all, we need to make sure that the page is ready. Therefore, I'm going to add here another function. I'm going to call it assert page is ready. We're going to use here the function that we have implemented before, wait until. Let's specify here, first of all, the timeout, 10 seconds. And for the condition, I don't like to do this kind of syntax. Let's use the named parameters for readability. Condition. What is the condition here? We need to make sure that the node, which is the progress indicator, is not displayed. If it's not displayed, we are 100% sure that the page is ready. There is no loading indicator shown. We're going to use the function that we have done under robot. We have to provide here the matcher. So this is basically how to deal with matchers. You can consider matchers like some way to tell compose test how to look for the composables or how to identify the composable. Basically, we're going to use the test tag, and we have defined the test tag under the constants. We have called it loading indicator, and we have to make sure that this particular composable is not displayed. This is the condition. Therefore, we're going to say this page is ready. Products page 1, referring to the pagination response that we're going to get from the mock API call. And we're going to loop over the products under the products page 1. Now we need to make sure that we have the correct products. Now you have two options. First one is to write the assertion here, or to make it as a reusable dedicated function. I'm going to call it scroll and assert has correct data. Scroll and assert has correct data. We need to pass products preview of type products preview. First things first, we're going to scroll to that specific card in our case. We're going to do here scroll, and we have to define the scrollable container. We have defined the scrollable container as the parent scrollable container under the layout, if you do remember. Under the layout, let's go back. This is the scaffold. We're not interested in this one. This is the parent scrollable container. So we're going to access this particular composable by this tag. By doing, we did not hard code this, which is good. Parent scrollable container. We have to use an merge tree because the card should be accessed as a single composable. And we have to specify the matcher. For the matcher, we need to check for the content description that's going to identify each card. Under the grid, we are showing the list of products cards, and we have added here a semantics to identify this particular card by doing the content description. And we have to use this string, and the string has a certain parameter. We're going to replace this parameter with the product title. We're going to use this content description products card. Let's come back to the products robot. I'm going to do here has the content description, and for the value or the content description, all right, I'm going to comment this. I'm going to use the one from the library. For the value, it's basically the string resource that we have defined previously, and we can try to make sure to import R from core UI and string and content description, products card, and we have to pass as a second argument the product title. Now we need to make sure that we have an image displayed as well as the price and the title. There's a good way in order to avoid using product dot and product dot. We're going to do with and pass here the product. First of all, it's going to take some time for the image to be loaded. We have to wait for this particular image to be shown. Therefore, we're going to use wait until. We need to run PHP artisan serve. Then we can, in order to see the image. Otherwise, the test is going to fail because the content description for the image is related to the string resource that we have done under the network image. We're going to see that in a bit. For the condition, what's going to be the condition here? And again, with the same manner with node, we're going to use unmerged tree to consider this as a composable, one composable, and we have to provide the matcher. We're going to look for something that has this particular content description or the image that has the content description. Let's come back to the products card. Under the network image, we have assigned this content description to this visible card. And if it's getting an error, we need to have something like, and if you want to test that the composable network image is going to fail whenever there is no link or it couldn't load the data from the server, you have to add here the content description for the error image, but we're not interested in this, nor in the loading indicator. We're going to check if we have this particular content description. If this content description is found, this composable image is being displayed. So I'm going to provide here the string resource and the ID and the title. And we did not finish the condition. It should be is displayed. I'm going to come back to the products card. We are talking about this content description. Do not do this particular one. The next assertion, we need to make sure that we have the title of the product. And once again, the price. Assert has text from the string resource, label price value, and we have to pass the price as string. We have done this basically under the products card. That's why good practice not to hard code anything. We have done this, which is good. The last assertion, we need to make sure that the learn more button is available and shown and visible. Therefore, we're going to look for this button by its content description. Let's come back to the products card. The button is identifiable by the content description. I'm gonna do here assert has content description. We have to provide the content description from string resource, the content description button, learn more. And we have to provide here the title to be identifiable. Why you do that? Because we have multiple composables and we have to identify the composables in a unique manner. If you do not do that, what's going to happen under the test or the compose rule, it's not going to be able to find which composable are you talking about. And you have to provide just one. It's going to complain basically by telling you we have multiple instances found under your composable tree, which is not good. Now we have the string resource and we're going to use unmerged tree to true. That's basically it for scroll and assert has correct data. I think that the product robot is ready to go. Now we are ready to write the first end-to-end test to get you up and running. We're going to run this particular test with the product robot by passing the compose rule. I'm going to do assert has list of products. I don't know if it's going to work because this is the first time we're going to run the application. Here we go. I hope it's not going to be awkward. Let's hit run. We have forgot actually to run the PHP artisan serve. All right, these servers are up and running. Let's run again the test. I couldn't see the splash screen actually. It's not working as expected. It should scroll the list of products. Let's see why it does not scroll. All right, let's come back to the assert or assert has list of products. So we did not use the scroll and assert has correct data. Let's do here scroll and assert has correct data by passing as an argument product preview. All right, let's run the test. Very good. That's good. And you can see here the power of robot pattern. Let's write the second test case, which is to make sure once clicking on the product, now we are just replicating what we have done under the Cypress or the Vuetify application. Therefore, going to define a test to make sure that once clicking on a specific product, we're going to navigate to the product detail, and we're going to make sure that it has the correct product detail. So the first thing here that we have to do is, as always, going to launch the activity or launch the application with the product robot. We will make sure that, first of all, the page is ready. The assertion that we're gonna do, for example, in the function, assert can navigate to product from wishlist. So I'm going to add here another function. I'm gonna call it assert can navigate to product detail from product fragments. Create a member function, and let's implement this function. I'm gonna create here the detail that or the product detail that we're going to test with from the mock data with product. And first of all, we're going to scroll to that particular product card containing the sunglasses title, for example. We're gonna do scroll. We need to specify the scrollable container. We're going to use unmerged tree and specify the matcher as we have done previously in the first assertion. We're going to look for the composable that has this content description from the string resource and doing R and string and basically the content description product card. And we have to provide here the title or the argument, product title. Now we are scrolling to this particular composable. Now we need to get the learn more button and perform click. Let's store this learn more button under this value. Let's call it learn more button by doing with node. The return type, it's of type semantics node interaction. So we can interact with this particular composable. We're going to use unmerged tree. And for the matcher, we have identified this particular button by this content description button learn more. And we have to provide here the title as an argument. And I think that we have to do here the string resource. From here, you can see that it's very important to assign the content description for the composables in order to make it testable. Learn more button. First of all, going to assert that this particular composable is displayed because not all composables are clickable. Going to assert that has click action, which means that this composable is clickable. Then we have to perform click. Afterward, we have to wait for the loading indicator under the product detail screen to disappear. I'm gonna do here wait until 10 seconds. And for the condition, perhaps you can call here the assert is page ready. We need to make sure that the loading indicator is not displayed. After the page is ready, we're going to assert that there is the title, or at least the title is displayed. Just for simplicity purposes, I did only the title. If the title is visible and we have the same title from the data, most likely we have other data correct. Keep in mind, we are not checking basically the integrity of the data. We are checking if we can navigate to the product detail from products fragment. For the next assertion, we're going to make sure that we have the correct images, the correct price and whatnot, and we can interact with the wishlist or toggle wishlist button. That's pretty much it. Let's come back to the main end-to-end test and let's run the test. Hopefully it's gonna work. Let's see. It's going to scroll to these sunglasses and the test fails. Let's see what we have missed right here. Navigation destination that matches route product route cannot be found in the navigation graph compose nav graph. Perhaps we have done something wrong under the navigation. Let's investigate. Let's go back to the home screen, not the home screen, but the home route. Whenever we click on this on a particular product, we should navigate. Basically, something wrong with the navigation. Let's click on this navigate to. Let's see what we have done. It's under the core UI module. We're going to format the route, and we're going to run stuff before navigating, and we're going to navigate. Let's check this, because this is basically how we're going to format the route. So for the route under product detail, we have this parentheses. So basically what we have to do, we need to replace those parentheses with the correct data or the correct product ID. So under the path, we have the route, final route. For each argument, we're going to replace, so final route, and we have to replace the key with the value. All right, I see what's going on here. We need to do, instead of doing just the key, we need to replace even the curly braces as well. Not only the key, but the curly braces. So we have to surround the key with the curly braces and add $sign and do key. I think it's gonna work. Let's come back to the main end-to-end test and let's run this test. It's going to scroll to sunglasses, clicking on learn more, and test passed, which is good. As you can see here, it's very important to write tests. We have caught a bug before even running the application or running manually the application, and we have corrected the bug accordingly. I'm going to add another end-to-end test. It's going to be a class. I'm going to call it product detail screen end-to-end test. The same thing that we have done here. I'm going to copy the whole thing, paste it here, override the function on setup. Just going to copy this, paste it here. I'm going just to provide here only one test case, which we're going to make sure that we have the integrity of the products. In other words, we're going to have the correct images under the carousel and the detail of the products. I'm going to name this test product detail screen should have correct detail. First of all, we're going to launch the application or the activity, perform the assertion with the product robot. We need first of all to assert that the page is ready. This is not mandatory, I think, because under the product robot, we're going to wait for page is ready. Assert can navigate to product detail, and we're going to make sure that we have the correct detail. Let's call this function assert has correct detail. Create member function. First of all, we're going to arrange the product to test. We need to scroll to the carousel first. For the matcher, we're going to look for the container or the composable that has this particular content description. I'm going to copy this. You can add it as a string resource, but if you are so lazy like me, I'm just going to do it like this, which is not recommended, if you will. We are now going to scroll to this particular composable, which is the network carousel, identified by product carousel, and adding as a trailing content the product title. We're going to check if we are displaying the correct images, or at least the correct images are being displayed under the carousel. We're going to loop over the media. We're going to scroll basically and assert the element is displayed. Why, you may ask? Because under the composable network carousel, we are using horizontal pager from accompanist and basically a scrollable container. We're just going to scroll and we're going to assert that we have the correct image. Therefore, we're going to use the function from the robot, scroll and assert is displayed. And the matcher has to match basically the same content description for each image under the network carousel. And again, it is a good idea not to hard code this, but I'm so lazy to do so. Let's go ahead under the network carousel and let's see how we identify each network image. Each network image is identified. This is the content description. So we are under the network carousel, and under the image, we did not specify here previously under the core UI the content description. I'm going to do here the content description as follow. It's going to be an image, and you have to place next to it the index. This is basically what we're going to do under our test, and add the same content description here, which is basically correct because here we're going to show the original images. Therefore, going to paste here the original images URL. All right. by doing so, image and passing image and original. Next, we have to provide the scrollable container tag, product carousel tag. Product detail screen, we have the test tag for the network carousel set to product carousel tag. That's basically it. Now we need to see that the text is displayed. And because the whole component is placed under the colon, we need to scroll and assert is displayed. Or the scrollable container tag, it's the parent scrollable container. For the matcher, text composable that has this particular text, which is the title of this product. Now for the product price, it's a little bit tricky. Why? Because under the product detail screen, we are using here annotated string, which is basically a mixture between different styles and colors. So a normal assertion won't serve purpose. By doing like this, it's not going to work. How to do so? First of all, we're going to scroll to this particular composable, and for the matcher has text, and we're going to assign here is substring to true, and the substring in question is the label price. For the text, it should be from the string resource and label price, which is a substring. Now we need to make sure that the other substring, which is basically the price, has the correct data. Let's copy this, and if it's able, of course, because I don't want to take risks, I'm going to scroll anyway. And for the matcher, it is basically a substring, which is the other section under the build annotated string. Now we are talking about this second part. I'm going to do here price label or label price value, and we have to pass as a second argument the price as text or the price as string. For the rest, it's very easy. We're going to assert that it has the correct description. To check the quantity, and again with the same manner, let's come back to the product detail screen. For the quantity, it's a build using build annotated string. We need to make sure that we have this section of the quantity. I think it's this one. No, I think it's this one. Yeah. We need to make sure that we have the right quantity. You can add the other assertions, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to copy this. And because it's a substring, we're going to do here instead of the text that you are looking for, it's the quantity and to string, which is basically what we have done here. And we are 100% sure that the product is in stock. And on itself, it is a good assertion. The last one, which is the category, which is very simple. I'm going to copy this, the category of the product. I think that's pretty much it for this assertion. Let's come back to the product detail screen and run the test. Now it should navigate and assert. Something wrong here. I can see basically the carousel switching back and forth between the images. The problem for the assertion is under the category. Basically what it said here, it could not find the text with this particular category text. I think it's maybe it's missing under the product detail. Let's come back to the product detail. Under the product detail, we have the network carousel, the title, the price, and we have the description, the quantity, and the button. I think that we have overlooked this category, which is good. I just added the products category here. Yeah, because we are using here the annotated string, it's going to glitch a little bit. Okay, let's run again the test and let's see if we have any errors, because there is no autocomplete here at this point. Come back to the product detail screen and run the test. If we have some errors, going to correct them accordingly. But we have forgot basically to add the product category, which is good. As you can see here, end-to-end test is very good. If you are just relying on testing only, there is no need actually to run the application in order to check if we have the correct outcome or not. Now we have a missing key component in our product detail screen, and the test has just detected that we have missed this particular information. It's going to check, it's going to click, and we have the category and the test passed, which is very good. For the next end-to-end test, we're going to focus on end-to-end tests for the product search result screen. I hope you have learned something new. See you in the next one, and happy coding!